Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Installations and Environment, Jackie Pfannenstiel, says they've taken all comments into consideration and will be filing the final environmental impact statement with the U.S. EPA this Friday.
It may not answer every issue that was raised, it may not resolve everything that came up, but I think people are going to find that it moves us a long way towards resolving what we heard from Guam earlier on.
According to Pfannenstiel, one of the biggest changes in the final EIS is the pace at which the buildup will occur.
We won't move the construction pace or move the relocation pace faster than the infrastructure on Guam can handle that.
This is due largely to a scathing report issued by the U.S. EPA in which they cited major environmental and public health concerns with the strain the buildup would cause on Guam's ill-equipped water and wastewater system. According to the U.S. EPA, if the military proceeded as planned with the buildup, Guam would end up with major water shortages and overflowing sewage systems that would lead to raw sewage spilling out into Guam's waters. To counter this and other negative impacts to infrastructure, the military will stretch out the buildup over a longer period of time in what they are calling adaptive program management. What does that mean?
Which means that we'll pace our movement, the construction as well as the flow of forces, to be what Guam can handle. And that means the port, the roads, the infrastructure, the water, the wastewater, power.
To ensure that this will happen, they have decided to create a civilian military coordinating council comprised of representatives from Guam, federal agencies, and military officials. Recently, both the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate have proposed major cuts for the military buildup. So now DoD has decided to implement the buildup in an adaptive way to ensure it doesn't outpace Guam's infrastructure. But apparently, DoD is also still hoping on completing the buildup on time.
2014 remains our target. That's what we have in there as what we'd like to meet. But we don't know what the completion date will be, because that will depend on the ability of Guam to handle the pace of construction. If it pushes beyond that, then it will.
It was also reiterated today that Pocket and other properties along the back road to Anderson is the preferred alternative site for a firing range and training area.
The preferred alternative in the federal EIS is that the Route 15 area would be used for the firing range. But with that comes some caveats and some commitments, which is that the ranges themselves, the firing itself, won't affect Pocket. And so the biggest question is the access. And we have committed to work with the people of Guam to assure access, and in fact, to the extent we can, to improve access.
DoD is currently looking at having Pocket open on most weekends, but this will eventually be clearly defined. They say Pocket made the most sense to them because it had fewer issues with impacting residential areas with noise and traffic. Now here's a complete breakdown of what was released today on the military buildup. For utilities, Japan has agreed to provide $740 million in financing for utility upgrades, expansion, and development associated with the Marine Corps relocation. This will fund Guam's water, wastewater, power, and other infrastructural needs. For roads, 3 additional bridges will need replacing. There are over $115 million in projects that have been requested or approved for DoD funding. For the port, DoD and USDA will fund $100 million in port improvement projects. The construction pace. Guam's infrastructure may not be able to handle such a rapid construction pace. DoD will stagger the pace and sequence of construction projects to ensure that they are within the limits of Guam's utilities, port roadways, and other systems. This means DoD might not complete the buildup by 2014. The maximum population growth at the peak of construction will be dramatically less than 80,000 people mentioned in the DEIS. They are now estimating a population growth of 42,000 during construction, which will decline and level off at 34,000. No DoD training will occur below the cliff or within the boundaries of the historic Pocket site. DoD will ensure the public has access to the Pocket area when the ranges are not in use. The access plan will be developed with the input of Guam agencies and the public. The Navy has not decided on a specific site for the transient aircraft carrier berth at this time. The Navy will voluntarily collect data on marine resources at the alternative sites still under consideration and make a decision regarding this specific site at a later date. So what hasn't changed with the FEIS? Well, the proposed actions and preferred alternatives for each action have not been changed. Clint Mergel, PNC News.